You ever heard platinum snap? Quieter than you'd expect, more of a tink than a crack. But that Sunday, it hit my ears like a gunshot. Family brunch, mimosas, curated laughter, ring lights. I'm stirring my tea, being my calm self, when Madison, 16, live streaming to her fans, snatches the bracelet off my wrist. Snatches it, mid-sip, no warning. She laughs. Old lady jewelry, retro junk. When it won't slide over her hand, she yanks. The safety chain snaps. 80 years of history hits the stone patio. Hand trembles round the teacup. Silence. Ryan keeps topping up his mimosa like it's an Olympic heat. Tiffany's fussing about shadows. Not one glance. Madison giggles, oops. Trash anyway. Yeah, trash. Trash that bought their brunch, their house, their carefully edited reality. I've always been their reliable Hannah, the sensible one who quietly fixes what they overspent. Invisible, but useful. And for the longest time, I believed that meant I mattered. That being needed was the same thing as being loved. That lie weighs a ton. So when she broke the bracelet, I didn't shout or cry. I just felt this click, a perfect, terrifying clarity. Because that tiny piece of platinum wasn't the only chain snapping. Mine was too, the invisible one I'd built out of checks and silence. And breaking it, I knew, might cost me everything I'd ever bought to belong. What I did next nearly leveled our entire act. Stick close. Love, things are about to detonate. Ever felt silence so loud you knew your life was about to explode? That's the sound that started it all. Ever sat alone in your flat and realized the silence has a price tag? That night, it did. The bracelet lay in pieces. My phone stayed mercifully still. Tea brewed. Laptop open, order from chaos. My specialty. Ryan's first mortgage rescue for $50,000. Tiffany's boutique dream, 25. The show home fought, 80. Each sell a confession disguised as generosity. For years I called it kindness. Then the numbers lined up, and it felt like an exorcism. Here's the truth about power, eh? It doesn't live in what you spend. It lives in what you can stop spending. So I logged into the donor portal for the illiterate's consentvery. Madison's scholarship, $60,000 a year. Anonymous benefactorate for 5862. She thought it was luck. Funny what the universe looks like behind a password. One tab. Manage funding. Click. Pop-up. Array Surreo and talk and trick. Amateur. To right. The progress bar crawled like a funeral march. Then gray text. Status. Inactive. Silver of silence. One slow exhale. Eyes lift to lens. That word was louder than every family argument combined. No fireworks. No revenge anthem, just equilibrium returning to its rightful owner. Money isn't security. It's agency. And I'd just repossessed mine. Next morning, boom, phone lit up like New Year's Eve. Tiffany, Ryan. Conservatory. They called it a clerical glitch. Spoiler, the universe doesn't do glitches. It does corrections. They were still sipping lattes when they discovered the magic money tree was dead. Wait till you see who they blamed first. You know that sound a phone makes when you don't want it to ring? Yeah, that one. Ninia M. Monday. Tiffany. If my family had a soundtrack, that ringtone would be a smoke alarm. I answer. Polite. Like I always do. Her. Nat. Thank good. We have actresses. Apparently. There's been wait for it, a glitch at the conservatory. The tuition payment bounced. I sip my tea. Bounced. Me. That's strange. Her. It's more than strange, it's humiliating. They said funds were withdrawn. Withdrawn. Such a tidy little word for liberation. She's panting now, voice rising to that influencer panic frequency. Can you call them? Use your professional voice? Fix it. They know your tone sounds competent. Translation. Do the emotional labor again, babe. I could almost laugh. Even in crisis, she outsourced responsibility like it was a brand collab. Me. I can't count them, Tiff. I'm not Madison's guardian. Her. Just pretend. Please. There it was, the assumption baked so deep they couldn't imagine money disappearing by choice. For them, cash existed like oxygen. Invisible, infinite, theorspertherite. Me. I'm Surthed ocean rades. Silence. Then the shrill edge. Watterson's, Madisonis aprati. I breathe through my nose, the way you do before archiving something fragile. Shemi to Lirna Street, Tiff. Click. Calended. For a moment, I just stare at the phone, its blank screen, suddenly very polite. Not abusing. Ni emergency. Just me and Mitya cooling to room temperature. That stillness. It wasn't empty. It was expensive. 2 days later, she posted a devastated meme video, black and white filter. Tears. The whole Trajan synfluencer aesthetic. Some jealous family member is about to jingmikide, she sobbed. Clever. Sympathy is great for engagement metrics. Then Madison texted. Aunt Nat, buy me a Cartier Bentordader. Even. She thought we were trading trinkets, not legacies. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a new document. Formal header. Tothe Bordeaux Firest Illitertskan Senvari. Time to file the truth under conduct violation. They called it a glitch in the system. I called it the beginning of an audit on their integrity. Wait till you see what the board uncovered next. There's something about paperwork that people underestimate. It's patient. Where rage burns quick, documentation waits. After their little meltdown, I opened a new file. Tothe Bordeaux Firest Illitertskan Senvari. Subject line. Grant revocation, ethical violation. Tone calm. Fact surgical. Clause 17. Donor conduct. Subsections. Respect for a terrorist. I attach one photograph. The broken bracelet beside an old handwritten letter. Scripted in sepia ink. Tolioner. For the musicthetism H.V. 1948. Have Heinrich van Staten, the founder, the one whose statue Madison had posed in front of for selfies. She'd bragged about his legacy 100 times online, and then without knowing snapped the chain he gave to the woman who helped him smuggle his compositions out of Europe. So yes, technically, my niece destroyed an artifact that predates her understanding of melody. Let's call that educational contrast. I explained it all, line by line. No adjective stronger than flagrant. No words wasted. Sent at 09:41 a.m. By 09:52 I had a reply. Miss Vance, very horrified. We had no idea of the provenance. Fund in Grove Octomy. Conduct review ping. 9 minutes. That's how long justice took when handled by someone with footnotes. I leaned back, watching dust dance in the sunlight, and it hit me this wasn't revenge. It was record-keeping. All I'd done was file the truth correctly. She picks up the bracelet, turns it under light. The fused scar catches gleam. Rabernathy said metal has memory. Maybe families do, but memory without accountability? That's just sentimentality pretending to be history. So, the file's closed, the board's alerted, and for once my silence is the loudest voice in the room. When Ryan and Tiffany read the chairman's letter, they stopped calling me the boring aunt. Wait till you hear what title they used instead. You know that sound a door makes when guilt decides to show its face? Yeah, that's not a visit, it's a summons. 6 a.m. 3 shadows in the peephole. Ryan, Tiffany, Madison. Ghosts of entitlement. Neatly stacked on my mat. I opened the door halfway. Boundary, literal and emotional. Can I help you? Ryan's in first typical. Hannah, are you insane? They're expelling her. The letter flaps like a surrender flag. Expelling, or graduating early in humility lessons. No laughter. Tiffany's shaking. They said Donner misconduct you. Madison's glare could curdle milk. Read the signature line, I say. He does. Color drains. Donner signature. Hanavans. Thrayers. 100 attendants anonymous. Almay. Tiffany collapses onto the sofa edge, but we hide it, because if you'd known, you'd have burned through faster. Madison's fingers twitch against crossed arms. It was an old brolt. I turned the repaired band under the lamp's silver scar-catching light. Old, yes. Same age as ethics, apparently. No one speaks. The air turns honest for the first time in years. I didn't just cancel Sheza, I say. I corrected air accord. Tiffany snaps. Voice wet. You can't penishal fashion bing. Silly spills joys. This was desecration. Ryan's tone falls to a whisper. Tiff. She's right. Silence sits between us. Heavy but clean. I almost pity them creatures who thought money was oxygen. Then I remember. Every breath they took was sponsored. Timito breathenari. Twosikon soffit, then footsteps fading down the hall. First mine ears. The door from Estastant. You'd think the thwashwand, right? But truth travels faster thangasip and thicken serviceaden. You know that calm after a storm when you half expect thunder to apologize for the racket? That was the week after Thevisit. No calls, no texts, just headlines sliding through my feed like whispers, faculty statements, donor confessions, a full-blown panic. And tucked into paragraphs of Opheren, one of the revoked grants was connected to founder Heinrich Skovantis, not my name. Not a leaners, just connected, but everyone who mattered could make the connection. Atham usermthisiviscent in hallways. Sudden liawis integral. Event coffee q compliments got frothy. Funya has candicator. Thentha karamenkal. Thank med for preservingen station. Polite codiforial cleasendam. Hawant hedaputhants label it recovered. Etol dimno. It's been catalogens it doent needed enchushen den chachuden. Samirlik surin spalisti there minders. Andreminder beatient. She turns the fused bracelet. Scar flashes in the light. Update. Madison public Chanel. Rumor Sasha shows Ildordwiv. Smallison still counts. Ryan mailed. Subject line reconciliation. 5 epigraphs of full. Old habits. Idin treply. Silence keeps bitterk. To beat pause. Leans toward lens. Funny thing about is the don't ask parents. The just repituor chant washachor chacha. Sana went simontes ethica custodian shish. Ismal. Because in a witsir all. It's not policy, it's platinum snabbing. They think that's the story. Butarkiv Swiss Biberk and on old dentistry. Ever find a piece of history that looks back at you? Mine arrived this morning handwritten, brown envelope, museum return address in neat calligraphy. Inside, 1 page. The original letter from Melanesian Avationshinshire. The one we thought lost when the archives flooded back in 72. Most of it's formal gratitude, logistics, transatlantic politeness. But near the bottom, a line in tiny script, went him usisif promisio ludibate evanifmen measing. Let it breathe. I read it 3 times before realizing that might apply to more than manuscripts. Because maybe letting go isn't absence, it's preservation. Maybe silence is just another form of care. She folds the paper carefully, slides it into a new protective sleeve, so next week the bracelet goes on loan 1 year. Climate controlled, labeled, restored dendromdrid. My grandmother deserves a little light. So do the stories that lived in her quiet. Soft smile. Funny the archivist finally learned how to release her own exhibit. People think history lives in glass cases, but sometimes it's alive in the hand that decides when to let go. And that's the thing about revenge, isn't it? If you do it right, it doesn't look like fireworks, it looks like peace. Beat of silence. If you felt this story in your bones, you're part of our archive now. Tap subscribe to our Evangeliary for truer-to-life tales of quiet power, second chances, and the art of walking away with grace. Share this episode with anyone who's ever had to rebuild their peace one silent decision at a time.